I wanted more peace in my life. And the first thing I ever did was say, I am a peaceful person. I choose peace every single day, because I knew that if I had put peace in my life, every other thing I wanted would become easier. And so as you're listening here, it's like, think about that one thing that would be such a game changer for you, that one mindset shift in who you are, and own it. I mean, say it every day, write it every day, and choose it every day. We all have the capacity to lean into one thought.
Let's talk about change. The truth is, nothing changes unless you change. And if you want to step into your full potential, you need to surround yourself with the right people. That is exactly why I have created the Empowered Life community. Within this community, I'm going to be teaching you the exact same mindset and energy practices that I have taught my clients that are paying me well over six figures, including CEO owners of billion-dollar organizations and professionals at the very top of their fields. You're going to get access to 2 live virtual calls every single month with me, where we're going to dive into mindset, energy practices, spiritual principles that are going to help you thrive in every area of your life. Can't make a call? No worries. We're going to provide you with a recording so that you can catch up anytime. Plus, you're going to have the opportunity for direct coaching from me and to learn from incredible guest speakers who are going to share their best practices and growth. Remember, you become the people that you spend the most time with. So why not spend time within a community that is going to elevate you and your life? For an introductory $499, you're going to get a full year of support and coaching alongside high performers who are committed to expanding their careers, their growth, their finances, and to elevate their overall quality of life. Just click the link in the show notes or log into rudiricksteins.com to lock in your spot and start your transformation today. Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast, a space dedicated to spreading the message that you have the power within to create everything you seek.
So if you're ready to enroll in a new kind of higher learning, the kind that leads to true personal freedom, then hang here with us.
We're your hosts, Rudi and Aniston Ricksteins, and this is the Empowered Life. Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast. My name is Rudi Ricksteins, and I have to tell you, one of the most commonly asked questions I get from people that I either know or have met me through the work that I do ask me, what is one of the greatest benefits that you have in hosting a podcast? And the answer might surprise many listeners. And to me, it's always in meeting incredible people. It's like a coming home party for me on the Empowered Life Podcast, because I only ever bring on somebody who I feel that I am aligned with, that I resonate with who they are, how they show up, what it is that they're doing in the world. And then every now and again, you meet somebody that just absolutely beautifully resonates with every fiber of your body and your being. And that is today's guest. Her name is Angie Wisdom. She is an incredible human being. She is a mindset expert, speaker, author. She's the author of the Non-Negotiable You, also the host of the Sharing Wisdom podcast. She is an absolute genius with 25 years of experience. I'm excited to have her on the show today and to talk about one of my absolute favorite topics, which is her wheelhouse, which is being intentional. Angie, I want to say thank you so much for joining us on the show. Thank you for your time. I know time is such an incredible resource, and that anyone spending time with us here today, you being the guest, and then for the listener, I appreciate you, and I know we're going to have a beautiful and enriching conversation.
Oh, thanks for having me, Rudi. I mean, you set us up beautifully here, and the feeling is mutual. I love your energy, and I think we share so much in the work that we do. So I'm really excited for this conversation.
Likewise. I'm going to dive right in because I know people are super curious when I talk about somebody who is in the mindset space. I'm in the mindset space, somebody who lives and breathes and talks about living in a very intentional life. I want to find out, because everyone always has this catalyst for shift or this catalyst for change. And I would love to know what really was that moment for you, that defining moment that set you up to get into the work that you do today. You are very much somebody who inspires people to live a life where they are very intentional. And that's really where you focus your coaching. But I would love to know what got you to really focus in on living an intentional life. And I would love to hear it through your story.
Absolutely. Back in 1997, I started my first career as a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley and was successful and took a lot of pride in raising a good book of business. But unfortunately, I found that I was not very joyful. Back then, I moved into management and I coached other people, but I was very much a performance like grindy coach, the ones that would just do whatever they needed to do to gather business and to succeed. And sometimes that meant showing up as a chameleon, I would call it, as whoever, they needed me to be, say what I needed to say, do what I needed to do. So I had a real lack of authenticity and a lack of joy in my business, even though I was very successful. And I tell the story all the time that one day I found myself, crossing days off of a calendar. I used to have my paper calendar on my desk. And that was like this red flag of like, what am I doing? I act like I'm serving a prison sentence here, crossing the days off of my calendar, couldn't wait to finish them. And that was the moment I was like, whoa, like something is really, really off here. Yes, I'm successful, but this is not how I should be, living my days. And that really set me on this journey to go, what in the world is wrong? Where is the joy? Where is the fulfillment? There has to be a better way.
So you mentioned that you were already in a coaching capacity supporting people. And so the natural progression for you would be to step into continuing to coach and support, which obviously speaks into why you're so profoundly successful today. Um, but I want to really bring this back for the audience, because I would imagine that we will have thousands, if not millions of people that will hear what you just said, and they'll turn around and say, hang on a minute, that's she's describing Monday morning for me. I read a statistic that the majority of heart attacks happen on a Monday morning at 9 a.m. And that's like, we're getting up, we're going to work, and people are like, oh my God, I hate my life. And so if we're in that place, because God knows I've been in that place before, what would be your advice to somebody? Because they're not all necessarily going to become coaches and authors, speakers, and podcast hosts. But for somebody that is in that, firstly, how do you support them to identify it if they haven't been able to identify it themselves? Because I think that's a really important step. And then secondly, what would be your advice to somebody that now has identified, man, that is me. How do I navigate through that?
Yeah, you can't be afraid to admit what you know is going on. And I think that's what happens for most people, is that they think it'll get better. They brush it under the rug. The success kind of blankets what they're feeling. But the truth is that it's just going to get exponentially worse. So you can't be afraid to really go, let me be honest with myself, even for just this minute. You don't have to commit to doing something different, but just give yourself a moment of honesty so that you can have a real conversation with yourself. That is step one. And for me, it was this moment of going like, it's okay to admit that I don't feel super fulfilled and joyful. Sometimes I feel like we don't want to admit something because then it makes it real. The truth is we're dealing with it regardless. Admitting it just gives us the opportunity and this, gift, I believe, to do something with it. So if you're willing to admit that, then that's your first step. And then second, you have to start asking yourself like, well, what would joy look like? Because you have to know what you're missing. And I started to go, well, I'd be excited to wake up every single morning. I would be excited every time I sat down with a client. I would be fulfilled. I wouldn't be just waiting for the vacation day, waiting for the weekend. So when you start to create a little bit of a vision on what that fulfillment would look like, then you can finally step into the space and go, okay, well, what has to change to get there? And it's so different for everybody. But let me add one more thing on there. If you are successful already, you have to believe that doing this work is going to make you more successful. You can't believe that you are successful because of this lack of joy, because you're showing up inauthentic. You have to believe that you will become more successful once you do that. And that was a real shift I had to make, because when you create success, despite all of these things, you feel like, well, this is why I'm successful, because I do show up this way for people, but it's 100% a lie. And when you do the work, everything changes for the better.
Oh my gosh. You see, I told everybody before we got started that we are just so aligned. Everything that you're saying is who I fundamentally believe we need to be in order to live beautiful and abundant lives. And you used a few words that I want to call back to over the course of this episode, no doubt. The first one was, you mentioned joy, and you actually used the word joy 3 times if anyone wants to go back and listen. and in slightly different contexts each time. But I think that that is so important. It's actually one of the foundations of my company, is that we need to live in a state of joy. But so many people give up their joy or their sanity or their peace or their harmony for whatever it is that they're chasing. But I would love for you to speak into, before I move on to the other words, which was believe, and we'll break them down as we go along. Um, but when somebody is in a state right now and they're wanting to create that change in their life, they don't all of a sudden get to create the change. They don't just get to quit the job. They don't get to just leave. They don't just get to start what they're doing. So there's a transition point. But you 3 times mentioned we get to stay in a state of joy. How do we find joy in the moment? And how do you support people to create joy in where they're at? And how does that support them in going where they're going faster?
Well, first of all, you mentioned that that's one of the foundational pieces for you as well. And I tell people all the time, like, everything is easier to build from a place of peace and joy. If you have any goals out there and you lack peace and joy, ditch the goal for right now and come back and make peace and joy your goal. Because when you build that in your life first, everything else becomes easier. So I love that we're on the same page there. And so for joy, for me, was a couple of things. One was understanding what filled me up. And I had no idea. I'm a recovering people pleaser, and it was all about whatever I needed to be or do or say for anyone around me. So when it came to the place of me going, well, what really fills me up? My answer was always, well, when everyone else is happy. I'm happy when everyone else is happy. And I had to, get that whole statement out of my vocabulary and go, what really brings me up? And it was a journey. I had to look back in my past and go, what used to bring me a lot of joy? What put a smile on my face? What gave me that warm feeling in my heart or my belly that was like, that was fun? What made me laugh? So you really have to go through and dissect some periods of your life, even if it's all the way back to high school, middle school, whatever, to figure out like what brought me joy in those moments. And once you do that, I call those your values, you're able to be intentional about putting them in your life every single day. But a big piece of the joy too is being in the present moment. Like, you can know what fills you up, but if you're always living 5 minutes ahead of what you are, you will always be robbed of your joy because you're worrying about what is coming next, what could happen, all the what if scenarios, the worry, the anxiety, the fear that lives in moments ahead of us. And that was a big shift for me too. I was always worried about what I needed to do, what I needed to say, where the next deal was coming from, what would happen 6 months from now, a year from now. So I had to get out of that state of worry by being present. I always tell people right here, right now, right here, right now, rub my fingers together, right here, right now, brings me to that present moment where I can literally choose my values and fill myself up with joy.
Again, for the benefit of the audience, I want to just emphasize what we just heard. Rub your fingers and say right here, right now. And it's not just saying right here, right now. It's doing something tangible and tactical in the moment to ground the mind and the body. And there's the distinction. You see, sometimes we're in the mind, sometimes we're only in the body, but we need the mind and the body. And that simple act of saying right here, right now, and then moving the fingers, grinding the fingers together, I am right here, right now, brings your mind and your body back into alignment. And we're going to talk a ton about alignment in today's episode, because that was one of the key words I wanted to emphasize, or at least have some of our focus of our conversation today, because I think so many people can benefit from that. But I love the simplicity of the exercise. I read a bumper stick, and I have mentioned this more times than I can count. But when I read the bumper stick, it was like a punch in the face, and it was really simple. And the bumper sticker simply read, the greatest gift in life is always ever the present moment. And I realized, wow, gift and present. The gift is being present. The gift is being present in the present moment. And we're always living either in the past or we're living in a perpetual future, but we're never going to get either of those moments. And the gift is always being right here, right now, being right here, right now in that. And I think that is, just if we end the episode there, is so much value for the listener. But there's so much more still to come. But staying, joyful in that moment, because when you are finding joy where you are right here, right now, it makes where you're at okay. And we don't have to be in this place that we may never get to, or this thing we may never experience. And I'm not saying you're not going to, but you're going to miss the moment that you have and the gift that you have in this moment. So I want to touch on the second word, because you mentioned believe. And I love the context with which you use the word believe. Now, we're on the Empowered Life podcast. I believe the power lies within everybody. We're always hearing people say, you have the power within, you can have and be and do something. I would love to know, how do you, Angie, support people in believing that for themselves, that thing that they want to have or their ability to have and to be, that they actually have that ability? How do you support someone through that?
3 things. I say it, see it, and seek it. If we want to believe something, we have to experience that in our mind. And so it's all these old stories and beliefs that are really running those neural pathways that make us believe one thing. If we want to change that, we have to do the work to rewire those neural pathways. And it's 3 steps. It's saying it out loud. I believe I can be more successful being my authentic self and filling myself up with joy than grinding away and doing business I had been. I said it out loud. I see it. There are numerous studies. I know you're right there with me, Rudi, for visualization. We may not be able to physically experience something to believe it, but guess what? When we close our eyes and we visualize it, we experience it through our mind. And, we have the chemicals that fire for that are the same as if we're physically doing it. So once we see that movie, if I close my eyes and I'm like, I see myself being authentic, I see myself bringing in new accounts and raising business and having joy, my mind starts believing that it can happen. So that visualization creates a belief that then we can start seeking. And that seeking is, how do you take action on it? If I know what that joy looks like, and I want to come into the office and I want to create business in a joyful way and be authentic, I have to start taking action towards it. So I say it, I see it, and then I seek it.
So you wrote the book, The Non-Negotiable You, and I love the title. Absolutely love the title, because I think we do get to live this unapologetic version of ourselves, because so many of us are running around, as you had said beautifully in the beginning, which was your story, a people pleaser, wanting to make sure that you made everybody else okay, but at the cost of ourselves. And I think that that is almost everybody's story to a degree. So I would love to know a little bit about what inspired the book, what would be the greatest gain from the book. And then I know that you and I work in very similar spaces, and that's why I was so excited to have you on the podcast, because I think that the more people hear the teachings that you have to offer, the more it validates the possibility. And the more people believe in the possibility, the more that they're going to do the work. And I know that you have just such a successful journal process that is accompanied with that. So I'd love for you to speak into that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. The book really came from my own journey and then what I did with clients for so long that I finally wanted to put it in words so that people could experience it on their own, regardless whether they were working with me or not. But what I know for myself and through other people is that people negotiate with themselves, their joy and their success more than anything else. Time and time again, people show up for everyone else. They run their thoughts and their opinions through other people. They give to them first. And in my journey, I decided I wanted to be non-negotiable about the joy and the success, the peace, all of these things in my life. And when I went back and I looked at, well, what has to happen to do that? I crafted out these key elements of really understanding, if I do these things, if I show up for myself, I'm non-negotiable about how I treat myself, the relationship I have with myself, the self-trust I have, how I master my mindset, take responsibility for what I want, then the success, the joy, anything I want is inevitable. It's not possible, it's inevitable. And so the non-negotiable you really is taking people through this journey of, how do you start to rewire what society has kind of formed us to be over the years of always taking care of everyone else, putting yourself in the back of the line, getting everyone else's opinion. And it takes people through that process. And then I have always believed that when you read a book, you can learn something. But if you don't integrate it, if you don't take action on it, nothing is going to change. You're going to be smarter, you're going to be wiser, and you're going to enlighten somebody else with this information. But if you don't use it, it won't make a change for you. So I created a companion journal that actually takes people through a process of creating this relationship with themselves every single day. And if you go through that process, if you show up for yourself, you're going to find your authenticity. You're going to find your self-trust. You're going to figure out what you want. You're going to make sure you have joy and wins. You're going to see your future and all these beautiful pieces that I believe, again, make that joy, that peace, that success inevitable.
You know what? I want to touch again on something that you just said for the benefit of the audience, because I think that we are all victim to this. But I use the word victim loosely because we're the creators of that. Um, I've read more books than I can even fathom, and majority of the books that I read are self-development. And so there's often an exercise at the end of a chapter, or they mention something, stop now, don't turn the page, do this. And I don't do that. I read, I listen, I move over to the next, and then I go to the next, and I put the book on a shelf. And information in and of itself is absolutely useless. It's worthless unless it's put into practice, which is what you just shared. My wife recently put out a book, The Universe is Hiring, and I read the draft of the book the same way I've read every other book. I just read it and I put it down. I said, babe, it's great. And then the book came out and I thought I would pick it up and read it again. But here's what was different. You see, I had the author living in my home. And so she would say, what chapter you're on? Oh, what did you do in the exercise? How did that? And so I actually had to start doing the exercises, not because I wanted to. Please know, Angie, I had no desire to do these exercises, but because she would ask me in conversation and I didn't want to turn around and say, oh, you know what? Actually, I didn't do the exercise yet. I didn't want the finger in the face saying, well, you should. And so I did. And when I started doing them, I was like, there is so much value in having a completely different experience with the book when you're taking the time to actually put it into practice, which is why I love that you've got the accompanying journal that supports people in being able to do it. It's like having you as the coach, but you're hand holding them through the print and holding them accountable every single day to themselves and to their dreams. Because I believe that's the one thing that really holds us all back, is that we don't believe that we're worthy of doing the work. And so we kind of need that nudge to get to do that. We have the dream, but we don't always believe that we're capable of making that next step, which kind of just sets up my next question. You have been in the field for over 25 years. You are very, very successful. You create profound shifts or changes. You work with everybody from individuals all the way through to corporate. You have worked with Fortune 500 companies. We could list them. It is very impressive resume. But I would love to know from you, your opinion. What is the single biggest or most common? I use the word biggest because I think it's the most collectively observed, I would imagine. But what is the biggest or the most common mindset shift that you've seen that people need to make in order for them to live, as you say, peaceful, joyful, and more abundant lives?
Oh gosh, that's a big question, Rudy. Because instantly I'm like, there's so many that I want to grab from. But the most simplistic thing I would say is you have to choose your thoughts. And I run into people every day who are like, what do you mean? I get to choose my thoughts? I mean, no, it pops up and I felt this way, I'm not good at this. Whatever thought pops up, they believe is truth. And it simply isn't. I mean, we have the numbers go anywhere from 20 to 60,000 thoughts, a day that come through our head. 85 to 90% of them are, limiting and negative thoughts. So if we just believe everything that pops in our head, I mean, you can paint the picture for yourself. You know where that takes us, what road that takes us down. So I would say like the simplest thing is to know that like you get to choose your thoughts. It is your mind to control just as much as my hand is right here. So understanding that, and every thought that comes into your mind, being able to say like, do I want to keep this or do I want to choose something different? It is so powerful. And I mean, you have to have a relationship with yourself and some self-trust in order to really get in that space. But from a mindset perspective, you need to look at yourself as the gatekeeper. You are the gatekeeper, and whatever thought comes in, you get to say yay or nay and decide what it's going to be. If you can start doing that, even on a small scale, your life is going to change drastically.
You see, now we're back to talking about being intentional. But what I love is that you're also teaching the process of really embodying a certain way of being. So if we're going to capture the thought and we're going to change the thought, it's going to change the emotion. meaning every time you think a thought, the brain's job is to produce a chemical equivalent of the thought that is an emotion. It goes into the body and tells the body then how to react or respond. When you take control of the emotional dump, it's going to start to change all of your patterns and your behaviors. And so that is 100% a powerful place for people to begin. But how do you help somebody to bridge that gap? Because now we're talking about being very intentional about who they want to be, um, but actually embodying the version of who they want to be before they've become that version of themselves. Because I think that's really where we get stuck. We want to be something, but we feel like we're disconnected from where we want to go or who we want to be or what we want to experience, and then we live in that. And you're saying catch the thoughts, create the shift, create the change, break the negative pattern or behavior. And so it's really about moving from being unintentional to being intentional so that you can embody the version of you that you aspire to be. How do you help people bridge that gap? Because I would say that's probably the biggest hurdle.
Yeah, people think that you have to be a certain way to then act a certain way, but it's actually reverse of that. So anyone that's listening needs you to understand that whatever your mind thinks, that is what you're going to live up to. You're not there's not going to be any dissonance between, oh, I think that I'm really poor at, creating sales, or I think that I just have the worst luck. If you believe that, that is exactly what you're going to attract. So we have to get into this space of going, well, I may not feel differently or, be doing anything differently right now, but I have to start thinking differently in order for the change to come. So I would tell people right now, like, don't think of it as like, okay, I'm going to filter every single thought right now. Just think of the one thought that would be life changing for you. For me, it was peace. I wanted more peace in my life. And the first thing I ever did was say, I am a peaceful person. I choose peace every single day, because I knew that if I had put peace in my life, every other thing I wanted would become easier. And so as you're listening here, it's like, think about that one thing that would be such a game changer for you. That one mindset shift in who you are, and own it. I mean, say it every day, write it every day, and choose it every day. We all have the capacity to lean into one thought and one action. And I tell you, Rudi, I said it so many times a day, I am peaceful. I'm choosing peace. And everything that happened to me, no matter what, I'd be in the grocery store and somebody run over the back of my ankle and it was like, I'm choosing peace. I'm choosing peace. The person cut you off on the road. I'm choosing peace. I'm choosing peace. We have the ability to do that. And so for anyone going, how do I bridge this gap? It seems like a big jump. Start with one thing and start with something that's going to be impactful and that is achievable. Don't shoot for the stars the first time around. But when you start to see that shift in yourself and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even have to say it anymore. Like, I am peaceful now. I didn't react to this thing. It's like magic. And you're like, okay, what's next? What's the next thought I want to embody here?
I love the word choicing that you used there, because not only were you selecting a phrase that is who you want to be embody in that moment or that time, but you use the terminology and you choose it, meaning again and again and again. It's not something you wake up and do and then that's who you expect it to be the rest of the day, but it's coming back to that version of who you want to be over and over. So that then dictates how you show up. Because God knows, somebody's pulled in front of me in traffic, I'm not choosing peace and harmony in that moment. I'm flicking them off and I'm dropping 4-letter words. And then a minute later, I'm like, who am I? And where did that come from? And so in that moment, it's obviously choosing who you want to be. I would love for you, if you don't mind, to speak into a little bit, for the benefit of the audience again, into what you believe would be a optimal way for somebody to really set themselves up to start their day. There are so many morning routines and everybody has got their own spin on what it looks like. But I would love to know from your vantage point, like, you create profound shift in people's lives. You've already given us so many roadmaps to the simplicity, which is what I love about your work, the simplicity of creating change and transformation in your life. But if you could really go into my life tomorrow or somebody else's life and shuffle everything around a little bit to support them to be the most successful version of themselves, and not having immediately read your book, what would be your ideal nirvana?
Yeah. Number one, start with you. I mean, it's the name of my morning mindset journal is start with you. Like, you have to be the priority just in that right there. before you pick up the phone, before you look at an email, Instagram, or anything, when you sit down with yourself to spend time with yourself, you've already kind of put a notch on the confidence board. You've already chosen yourself and sent a message to yourself that you are important and you matter. So that has to be the first thing. Resist the urge to tune in to anything else. When you sit down with yourself, the beauty of the morning mindset practice that I've created is one, it's going to create this authenticity. It's going to help you live an intentional life, create more awareness, all of these things that we know as the key words. But the really neat thing about it is that it's all built from a neuroscience perspective. So when you're leaning into these prompts, we're doing a couple of different things. The first statement is, I feel. I just want you to say how you feel. When you write out, I feel tired, I feel excited, whatever it may be, we're actually kind of disidentifying with our feelings and creating some space for us to do something about it. Instead of saying like, I'm tired, you own it. Doesn't feel like you can do anything. When you say, I feel tired, it then allows you to ask in the next prompt, like, what do you want to do about it? So this is empowerment. Right out of the gate there, we've actually sent a message to your amygdala to like calm nerves, to kind of ease any concerns when we're saying how we feel. And then an empowerment piece with our prefrontal cortex lobe is going, well, what do you want to do about it? I quieted you down. Now I can take action. The whole practice goes through that. I won't kind of to give you all the neuroscience behind it, but I want people to understand that there's two elements to doing a practice like that in the morning. Is one, it's kind of at a surface level of how you create your day, how you show up, but it's also gym time for your brain. And that is really, really important when you can constantly ease that amygdala from, the feelings of being afraid or overwhelmed, and you can activate that prefrontal cortex lobe, your CEO, executive functions. You're training yourself to be more and more mentally fit. But back to the practice, it's this, how do I feel? What do you want to do about it? What are you affirming to be? This is your confidence piece. You have to say, like, I am peaceful. I am joyful. You've got to call these out in order to start forming that new neural pathway. And then we go into intentions, because everyone should be in the driver's seat of their life. What do you intend to happen today? Whether it's action, whether it's being, there has to be real intention for what you're showing up with. And there's fulfillment there. And then it includes gratitude and prayer and visualization, which are all an important part in the mindset. Cognitive reframing, the ability to create new change with visualization. So a lot of really powerful steps right there that create your authenticity, that create your self-confidence, your intentionality, self-trust before you've even talked to anybody. I mean, imagine, I know you do stuff like this, Rudi, you do your priming, so much similarity in there, but like how valuable this is for people. And so for anyone listening, like if you can carve out 10 minutes for yourself and start to do this, you're going to notice a shift in your self-trust, and that relationship you have with yourself is going to be what allows you to start tuning out the external noise and getting close to yourself and making things happen.
Oh, my love language. All the terminology is my love language. I want to anchor something just for a moment, and then I want to dive into a little bit more about what you just said about, getting closer to yourself. I woke up this morning. I've had strep throat for the last 4 or 5 days, and it's Monday morning at the time of recording. And I got up this morning at 5 a.m. and I sat with myself for over 80 minutes in a meditative state, not talking to anybody, 100% in my mind, getting to reacquaint myself with myself so that I could tap into what does Rudi feel like, not with a sore throat, not with an achy body, not with fever, no, 100% calm, collected, centered self. And from that vantage point, I can now create the day that I want to create. I've had a very busy day. I've had a lot going on. Thursday and Friday, I was on my back. So everything's been moved into this week. And so, I think that the value in pouring into you is the greatest gift that anybody can give to themselves. But I'm sure that there are people that are listening to this episode today that may have never heard of priming. They may have heard of other versions of different routines. What would you say to somebody that's hearing the conversation and they understand cognitively. They understand, right? This makes sense. You know, when you practice gratitude or when you say a mantra or when you identify yourself or you pick yourself, yeah, sure. But I have kids. I'm a single mother. I'm a single father. You know, I've got an unruly boss. I've got deadlines, and immediately get into their day. What would be your advice to support somebody in at least beginning the practice? Because I think that's what people really need, is to know where to start and why. We don't ever do anything unless we fully understand what's in it for us as the individual. And so we can logically know that this makes sense, but well, our lives are really busy. How would you really support somebody in creating that shift so that they do start to pour into themselves as early as tomorrow?
You're going to see a different side of me for a second, Rudi, because in my book, one of my clients said, you listen like a mom and you deliver like a dad. So here's my delivering dad moment. If I told you I would give you $1 million if you carved out time every single morning to do this, no doubt you would find time to do it. And so it's about the value that you put on it. Everyone can make adjustments and make time. When we say, I mean, I had kids, mine are grown now, but I certainly had kids when I did this. And it's about, again, the value. So start small, find 5 minutes, take it in, your closet when you're getting dressed, take it in the bathroom, figure it out. But again, if I told you could have $1 million if you did this for 30 days, you would figure out how. So as you sit down, ask yourself a couple of questions. One, do I want some kind of growth and improvement? That's your first thing. Because if you're fine the way things are and you don't have the motivation for change, it's going to be hard to kind of carve out that time. So do you want growth or change? Yeah. Okay. So you have the motivation. Two, how bad do you want it? Really give yourself, like, what could change? Would you have peace? Would you have joy? Would you have more success? Really kind of ramp up that motivation a little bit. And then ask yourself, like, if I was going to get $1 million from this, how would I make it work? Because when you start looking through that lens, you're going to get really, really creative. Before that lens, our mind throws out all these excuses. Going back to that amygdala, that part of your brain, it sends these kind of signals of like, well, this sounds hard. This sounds scary. This sounds out of the norm. I am not really comfortable with this. Like I literally, oh, look, it's right here. I say your amygdala is like a little chicken in your brain. And so this is the guy who gets fired up and he's like, yeah, no, I can't. He's going to make up all the excuses for you. Your job is to say, well, what if I put all the excuses aside for even just today and gave it a shot? How would I make it happen? And I guarantee you're going to find a way to make it happen. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be progress. That's what I would say to people.
Hey, it's Aniston Ricksteins here, and I want to ask you, have you ever wondered if there's more to your life and work than what you're doing right now? What if I told you that the universe is hiring and you were born to fill a role that will bring you true purpose and success? In my new #1 best-selling book, The Universe is Hiring, Discover the Role You Were Born to Fill, I'm going to show you exactly how to step into that role. This isn't just a book full of inspiration. It's a roadmap to help you start shifting into a more fulfilling life right now. You'll get clear on your unique purpose, learn how to align with your strengths, and take actionable steps towards the career and life that truly light you up. If you're ready to make a change and start living the life you were meant for, grab your copy today. Available anywhere you buy your books online or click the link in the show notes.
You know, I have heard people describe that when you speak, people listen. And I think our audience is getting a masterclass in that today. But I love that you're able to communicate in a way that is so simple that people can take action. Because I think that sometimes we overcomplicate. I know I do. We overcomplicate information because we think people need so much more, but we really just need the simplicity in everything. I want to talk for a moment about your upcoming event. And I want to fully, with transparency, share with the audience that I met you through two just incredible human beings, Tiffany Peterson and Coach Dar, for anybody that knows Darlene. Just two powerful women doing unbelievable things in the world. And they connected us because you're hosting a live one-day immersive event. And it is a game-changing one-day for people that are going to be in that room. I know that because I now know each and every single speaker that is in that room. You've put together just such an incredible group of people that are so uniquely qualified in seeing someone and then being able to support somebody in moving forward. Get Intentional 2025. Love the name, by the way. And I love what it is that you offer. I would love to know from you, because you do so much. You have so many things going. Why did you create this event? And then if somebody's listening to this, and I'm prefacing it this way because, or let me preface this way, because I get people, often clients, that even say to me, hey, you know what? I have in the budget for me this year one event. Rudi, which event should I attend? And then I'll, list some of the events that I'm going to, or other people's events, and based on their budget, make recommendations. But for somebody that's listening to this right now and they are asking the question, like, what would I gain by being in the room? So twofold: why did you create the room? And then what will people gain by being in this room? And it obviously is coming up now, right around the corner in May. And so for anybody that's listening, I would love for you to listen to the response to this question through the lens of, if you're sitting in the room, who do you get to be when you walk out of that room? So Angie, why don't you tell us what brought it together?
I created this event several years ago because I myself had been in the room many times at the events like this, and I knew the powerful breakthroughs that it created. And it's easy to go through life and to go through our day to day and, yes, have goals and trying to create some growth. But there's something really special about being in a room full of other growth minded people, being spoken into by people who are transformation experts that just give you this catapult to this next level, like a true breakthrough. Those are not breakthroughs that can be created one-on-one. They're not breakthroughs that can be created reading a book, or even sometimes just going through a group coaching program. Like, there's just, and I'm sure you've experienced this before, and this is why you're coming and you're speaking to the event, because you're one of those people who create those breakthroughs. And so I created this because I want people to have a place to go have a breakthrough that's going to help them create that momentum and that trajectory to that next level up. Now, the special thing about my event is that it's not there to motivate and just create like a breakthrough aha moment. It's actually to work you through it and to get you into action so that you're taking steps. In my past, I'd always been to these events and I was like, oh, I'm so motivated. I had this like light bulb moment. These people in the room were great. And then it was all left on me to figure out, like, well, what do I do with it? And my event, after I have a speaker speak, like when you're speaking, Rudi, then there's going to be working time for people to get together, talk, figure out whatever they just heard you speak on, and really put it into action. So it's not this motivation event, it's a transformational event. So when people leave, they come in, they have a breakthrough, they take action in the moment and start that trajectory before they even walk out of that room. And I just, call me a little selfish, but I just love being a part of that. I mean, there is nothing more special than seeing people's faces light up, seeing what they create 3, 6 months down the road. And you're like, yes, it's just truly one of my favorite days of the year. And I'm so grateful you're going to be there to share it.
I am so honored. I had a conflict when you had come to me with the dates for your event, and I so wanted to be at this event that I rearranged what I was doing to make sure that I could come, because I want the audience to hear what you just said, but as it relates to the kinds of rooms that we so often spend time in. I believe that people put themselves with hard-earned money into rooms because they're aspiring to create a shift or a change in their life. Every single person that is alive knows that there is something more for them. If you don't have something more for you, it's time to go. But you are always in that moment ready to do something different. But we don't always know how, or we don't know how to get started. And that can feel really difficult to not be able to take that step. And so for some people, we need the motivation to get started. But for the majority of people, we need the transformational work, which is the thing that is underlining the pattern of the behavior that prevents you from taking action. And when you can put yourself in an environment where you are going to have your hand held by incredible experts that know what they're doing to create a shift or a change for you, that is truly powerful. But unfortunately, it's so very rarely seen in today's day and age. And I want to explain that. And here's why I'm so excited about Angie's event. The majority of speaking engagements that we go to, it is a 1 day, 2 day, or 3 day event. And there are, I mean, 8 to 10 speakers a day. There are 20-minute increments. Every now and again, a speaker has an hour. It's so fast. It's in, it's out. There's very few, breaks for even lunch. Some of the bigger named speakers in the world today will host a 1 day, 2 day, 3 day event, and it is a portion of a breakthrough, and then it's 2 hours of selling you something that they're going to make an offer for, and then they go into a little bit of breakthrough, and then it's another offer. Andrew's entire event is 4 main speakers. We're talking about 4 incredibly powerful people grounded in transformation, not ours, yours. And then instead of having 5 or 6 speakers or 8 speakers come, because every speaker brings an audience. And so for somebody hosting an event, it makes sense for them to have more speakers because then they open up their market to more people. And Angie said, I don't want that. She's like, I want to have less speakers, powerful impact, and then I want to ground information. And I'll never forget the conversation because Angie and I spoke a number of times prior to. And, we both understand human behavior. We both understand mindset, and we understand how people retain memory, long-term memory, meaning to create a shift or a change. And that there's 2 ways to retain long-term memory. One is through heightened emotion, which is why you remember the worst day that ever happened to you, the happiest day. You'll remember the wind direction, the day, the temperature, everything is just such clarity. But the second way to retain information at the same level or rate is when you ground information after you've heard it and you immediately get into a state of teaching it. And that's what this event really is. It's about learning, absorbing, creating the shift or the change, because we don't know what's going to be your shift or change, which is why there's a number of different speakers. But in that moment of having it, she's created a space for you to turn around and immediately document it, put it into action, create a commitment. How do you want to shift? How do you want to change? You're never going to forget what you learn in that room. And the question I really have for everybody is, who do you get to be when you leave a room like that has been so beautifully, carefully planned for you, for your growth, for your development? When I spoke to Angie about the number of people coming, she wants it to be small. She wants it to be intimate. She wants people to connect. No part of this is about generating revenue. All of it is grounded in profound shifts or profound changes. And for me, Angie, I just want to say, it is absolutely an honor and a privilege to attend this event and to be able to play a small part in what is going to be just an incredible day. If you do not know Tiffany Peterson, I highly recommend you follow her. She was on the podcast. We'll link the previous episode so that you can listen in. Coach Dar or Darlene, she is unbelievable. She's a mindset expert, works with some of the greatest athletes and professional organizations in the world today. Obviously, Angie Wisdom, Fortune 500 coach supporting people, author. She's just incredible at what she does. And so to have me up and alongside you, powerful woman supporting, it is going to be truly a day to be remembered. And I hope that as the audience, you're asking the question now, am I worthy to be in the room? Because you are, and it is affordable, and we'll add links into the show notes. I also have a discount code that we can add in for you, but man, you have got to get into the room. And Angie, I'm going to throw you under the bus here for a second. And I'm going to say to the audience, if you're on the fence and you're not sure if this room's for you, send her a message, DM her. I'm going to put her information below and just have a candid conversation, because she's that kind of person, committed to your growth, your development. Angie, what else would you like to add to what I hope has just been a beautiful promotion of your event? Because I'm super excited for the opportunity to be there.
I can't think of anything else, Rudi. I mean, you said it all. You got me re-excited about it here. But I think I'm smiling so big because when I picked these speakers, it's just, this is the year that I'm more excited about than ever before, because I picked such transformational speakers. And it was a special kind of guy that I needed to stand along, side of us 3 women. And I'm just so excited that you are the perfect person for it, and for, the attendees to feel what all of us are going to bring together. I'm just like already getting a feel for the energy that's going to be circulating in that room all day long. Sometimes you go to these events and you don't even talk to speakers, like they're just like in, they're out, they've done their thing, and all of us are like the ones that are like, oh, I'll sit down. Yeah. What do you need? Where are you stuck? Like, let me help you figure this out. You're not walking out of this room until we get through this, you know? So that's just a really exciting thought. And I'm excited to put it on with you, all of you.
Well, I am super excited. Give us the dates again, and what's the easiest place for people to be able to book their tickets?
May 17th, it's here. And I mean, what better place to be than Orange County, California? So Costa Mesa, California, May 17th. It's one day. It'll be all day from 9 until 5 o'clock. And if you go to my website, angiewisdom.com, you'll see a link there for it. You can get all sorts of different details about accommodations, tickets, all that good stuff. And please, 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 yes, DM me, message me. My phone number is on my website, as a matter of fact. So you can send a text message there if you want and are trying to decide whether this is right for you.
I think it is going to be one of the most incredible days. I'm a promoter of people, and so anytime I'm talking to somebody, I'm always giving them just the best recommendation. Um, but when I think about this event and the impact that this event will create, and the people that are on that stage, to just be in the same room as the three of you, I mean, it is an intimidating room. From my perspective, to come up against you incredible ladies and to be able to support in a way that is going to pour into the room. But man, I love all three of your hearts. I love how you show up, who you are, and how you do things in integrity. And I think that is so important, because for many of us, we are not always in integrity or in our authenticity. And I use those two words interlinked, because I think that the moment we're not being authentically ourselves, meaning we're trying to be a people pleaser or do something different or make somebody else happy, we're no longer in integrity with ourselves. And if we're not in integrity with ourselves, there's a slew of errors and issues that come up. And you three ladies are marching forward, creating a movement, but you're doing it effortlessly and beautifully. And so I am very excited to be able to be in the room. I would love to ask, as a closing question to you, obviously grateful for everything that you've shared. There's so many things that I could just repeat now as like takeaways of how we could create transformation today, let alone what's coming up in the room in May. But what is next for Angie? You have achieved so much, and I love to always be grounded in the present moment while I'm forecasting and embodying the next expression of the version of who I am. For somebody who has achieved so much, who is so impactful, what's next for you?
I'm so glad you asked. I'm writing my second book called The Impactful You, and it is to help people shift from the transaction trap into the impact zone. I think all too many of us live on the day to day, like the next thing to do, the next transaction to achieve. And I really want to help people shift into the impact zone, where life becomes easier and you create this ripple effect of impact from one person to the next. And it's exactly what I'll be talking about too at the event. But I'm excited. It's a big transformation, and I think my people are ready for it. And that's what's really on my heart right now. So the book is in the works and will probably be not till the end of the year, beginning of next year. But everything is really focused around this impact zone.
Well, congratulations to you in advance on the book. I know what goes into putting out a book, having just experienced my wife go through that entire publishing process. And then also just on your event and the success of your event. And the greatest compliment for anybody, in my opinion, in the work that you're in, the field that you're in, is when people have worked with you and they want to work with you again, or that people that have attended an event that you've hosted want to attend an event again. And here's the beauty in it, is that so many people that have attended your first, your second, or your third event, like, they come back and they keep coming back. And that's a testament to you, to what happens in the room, but also to the growth that continues to happen. Because as you change, as you grow, and as you evolve, your events have changed and grown and evolved, and it keeps bringing people back. And so thank you so much for spending some time here with us today. I hope that everybody jumps over, grabs a copy of your book, starts to follow you, and if at very least sends you a DM and wants to know a little bit more about how you can create an impact in their lives. Angie, I love you so much. Thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate you, and appreciate your time and coming in on the show.
Thanks, Rudi. So much love back to you, and I'll see you in May.
Yeah. And to the audience, man, do I just have so much love for you. Thank you so much for joining us on the Empowered Life podcast. I cannot stress enough that you are worthy of having, being, doing, and achieving anything and everything that your heart desires. But you are the only person that is responsible for creating that catalyst or creating that change. And that there are people that are out there and available to you who can support you, love you, and encourage you in stepping into what is your inner power. Angie's one of those people. I hope that you get to know her. I'm honored to have had her on the show. And as a grounding exercise, you get to be here right now. I love you guys so much, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Empowered Life podcast.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And we would love your support in leaving us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to check the show notes for more information on how you can find us online and on Instagram. Now go create an amazing day for yourself, and we'll see you again soon.